Good evening. Hoping everyone is fine. I do realize we're doing a little interlude, and somebody was asking what's happened with the Kalindula music. And in respect, I think honoring Facebook rules or YouTube rules, there's I think a protection campaign going on for music and copyright issues. So we don't want to get into any trouble or to stomp on anyone's creativity, because I think that's the other element. There's some creativity going on and we don't want to stomp on people's creativity. So they need their due credit according to Facebook now. We're hoping everyone is fine and that we are getting on well. I know it's become really hot in Zambia, and typical of us humans, we want I think the term is we want things we cannot have. If that's the right term, I always say that. I think that's the right term. Because when it's cold, you're like, it's freezing and you keep complaining about the weather. And then when it gets really cold again, you're complaining about the weather again, it's too cold, and there's that variation. And for people like me, I begin missing the British weather, which is very silly, but that's when I miss the British the British weather. When it gets too hot, you begin wishing that there was a humid heat and not the dry heat, and then you realize that you're being really ungrateful for the things that you have. Then you start thanking God for the heat, because when you're there again, you're wishing for the Zambian heat. So it's a pity party, but it's an enjoyable time. I like the summertime, so forgive our free dressing, because I know there's always that kind of decency thing that goes on in Zambia. And a couple of times actually, I've gone to a government office, and then somebody says, oh, you're supposed to be dressed up decent, and you're thinking, hey, I need to dress up decent, I'm already dressed decent, now. But I think that's typical of us. We like our little traditions. And we're just going to talk about what's going on in the news today. A little bit political, I would say. So it's going to be political. And we are looking at a couple of things that are going on. We've had a few laughs. I would say they're laughs, because when I see some of the news that's going on, it's actually hilarious when you look at things like ZNBC, which is a national broadcaster, reporting on something like sodomy. And unfortunately, I do bear with them, because I think they were misled by UTH. So UTH reports that there's a patient that's come in and he has been sodomized multiple times to the point that he's died. Now, the story didn't even make sense, but people posted it, and it was trending yesterday until 19 hours at the main news, when ZNBC were forced to apologize. And it was really embarrassing. I think that was an embarrassing thing by a state broadcaster to have to apologize for making such an error. But I think they were misled by the UTH people, because I think UTH equally should not issue statements unless a postmortem has been done to ascertain a lot of things. Because I think when I read it, and I think I'm a lay person, I could poke holes into that story. The first thing that put me off was where they were claiming that the person was between 20 and 30. Now, Africans, come on, black don't crack. How are you going to really know that somebody's 20 or 30 just by looking? And this is someone who's passed away. So in that state, how are you supposed to know that this person is that age, unless they've been certified and there's been a scientist that's gone and done that? And I know in Zambia we don't have that kind of thing. Nobody goes ascertaining ages. Because I don't think we have a dental record that matches our age for such purposes. And then the second story was that he was sodomized multiple times. Now I'm thinking, how did you know this? Has a postmortem been done? It hadn't been done. And then the telling part was that he had intestinal matter. Apologies, this is a bit gross. Now I was thinking, this doesn't sound like what they're trying to say. This is somebody who has been sexually assaulted. This is not sodomy. And unfortunately, people had believed the story from the morning, and it has riled people up. We have certain people that have gone on to campaigns. Our doctor, anti-alcohol doctor, is supposedly supposed to start marching to State House of some of these stories, and some of them are questionable stories. And when you hear the police report, the police are claiming we only have about, is it 18 cases of sodomy this year alone? So I don't doubt the existence of this, and I think it's at a higher number. It's just that, you know, men are a little bit more embarrassed. They don't come up like women come up, and they're not going to tell the story. But the fact that the numbers are that 18 doesn't relate to a sudden surge all of a sudden that people are reporting these cases every single day. So that story had a lot of loopholes that you were questioning a lot of the, even just the common sense, you were questioning a lot of that story. And unfortunately, I think that's what happened. On the other hand, there seems to be a bit of a, I would say, like a storm of sorts in the UPND. It feels like, anyway, and you feel a bit sorry, and at the same time you feel a bit like, come on guys, we're supposed to be bigger than this. And I'm going to take you, I don't know if any of you have ever heard of a writer. I like reading, so there's a writer, and his name is Borges. I think it's called Jorge. Now I'm trying to, you know, Zambia, if I say this something, it's going to sound like George, but J-O-G-R, so it's Jorge Luis Borges, and he has a story, and it's called The Aleph. And this is somebody, he's an Argentinian writer, and he wrote this story. He's got a nice way of writing his stories. And basically the story of The Aleph is that this guy has a bereavement, his girlfriend dies, and he goes afterwards, I think he's trying to mourn his girlfriend or the love of his life. He ends up going to her house and he meets her cousin. And her cousin is telling him about this object that he has in his basement that will help him write the biggest or the best piece of poetry ever. And this guy, the protagonist, who's Borges himself, because that's what he liked doing. That's why I liked his stories, because he always made himself like in the story. He's looking at this, who would have been his brother-in-law, and thinking, this guy has got a few loose screws. I think that was normal son. But the guy comes and says, gosh, come into my basement and see this object. So he goes into his basement and he finds this object. Now, this is what captures me on this story, and I'll just read a part of it. It says, on the back part of the step towards the right, I saw a small iridescent sphere of almost unbearable brilliance. At first, I thought it was revolving. Then I realized that this movement was an illusion created by the dizzying world it bounded. The Aleph's diameter was probably a little more than an inch, but all the space was there, actual and undiminished. Each thing, a mirror's face, let us say, was infinite. Thing, since I distinctively saw it from every angle of the universe. I saw the teeming sea, I saw daybreak and nightfall, I saw multitudes of America, I saw a silvery cobweb in the center of a black pyramid, and I saw a splintered labyrinth. It was London. So I saw close up and ending eyes watching themselves in me as in a mirror. I saw all the mirrors on earth and none of them reflected me. And I saw in the background of a solar street the same towers that 30 years before I'd seen in the entrance of a house in Frey Bentals. I saw bunches of grapes, snow, tobacco, loads of metal steam. I saw convex equatorial deserts and each one of the grains of the sand. So that's the uniqueness of his story. But the reason I think I'm drawn to this is that this object was really unique, and that you could see everything that you ever saw or things, and it draws you back to that element where, you know, where you go into a crowd or you're stood above and you can see a crowd and you just recognize one human being. That kind of ability where you just see that one thing is really unique. And I think in politics, there's that element. When you're looking at any political sphere, I think you're supposed to look at it in such a way that you can see or recognize certain things. Now, I do realize, I think as Zambians, our education system fails us a lot. It teaches us a lot of knowledge, but it doesn't teach us application. And because it doesn't teach us application, we don't see certain things for what they are. So I'll give you an example. For me, I can see the UPND killing kadreism from within. Okay, so if you cut the head of an issue within, nobody else can do it. So if we are going to cut the kadreism element out of the entire Zambia, you will have to kill the kadreism within the UPND. I can see that. I'm wondering if people can see that. I'm wondering if people can see it. Another philosopher that I like is a guy called Arthur Schopenhauer, and he's a German philosopher, and he had this theory that describes what he calls like the apprehension of the objective essence of a thing. So it's like a moment of will-less experience, and it teaches you about the true reality of things. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you were cooking, and I think this happens. You're doing something that you normally do every day, and all of a sudden you hear maybe a tune or a song, and you're so captured by that tune or that sound that it kind of takes over you completely. And because it's taken over completely, everything else you're doing is just mechanical because you've been doing it all over and over again. So your body just knows that I'm supposed to put salt, I'm supposed to put this, and that's what happens. You get to that level. But the beauty of Schopenhauer, and why I love him, is that he argues that the underlying everything that exists, or at least everything that you experience, is a certain core truth. Okay, and this is the idea of mankind, or the essence of the species. And he asks us to imagine people as having both a kernel and a husk. Okay, so when you look at people, I do this, I don't know if you do this, but I do this, where I look at something and they're supposed to be, you know, chishel. Essence. Okay, so a lot of the times, we don't see the essence. And I think that's why we miss the reality of things, that you can look at a political space as is. And when I'm looking at the UPND are really trying to change the trajectory of politics at such a high level. And a lot of people are not able to see it, unfortunately. It's not that we are blind. I just think sometimes, maybe, like I said, the education system really robs us of having some of these critical elements that you can look at a situation and you can tell that, UPND, this is what they are doing. Okay. Now, unfortunately, we who are privy and we're able to speak, the majority of us are people maybe in the diaspora. Now, the problem of being in the diaspora is that you're a little out of touch. That's the unfortunate element of being the diaspora. You're out of touch. Yes, you know what's happening. You can see the husk. And because you cannot see mukati, when you say certain things or you forward certain things, all you do is just tell people ichiripanze chole mona ndemona fyo lubalala lwamonika shani lwamonika brown. I mean the ichipapa chele monika brown, but mukati tawisha whether imbalala ili red, ili brown, or ili white, or it's speckled tawishive because tawa bako. Okay, and this is not a disrespectful thing about the Diasporians or anything. I just think that when you are out of Zambia, and I can attest for this, you are not in the midst of what's happening. So you become quite detached. And all you see is on the surface and what people tell you. Now, when people tell you something, they're just telling you that chili brown. They're not telling you so. They're not telling you. And unfortunately, what I've noticed is in the last couple of days, it's a lot of the Diasporian community that have been calling for certain things. I'll give you an example. A group were calling for the replacement of the Secretary General of the UPND for Mwaliteta. Now, I'm looking at these people, and you're my people. You know, I'm part of you. How can you call for the change of a Secretary General of a whole political party whilst you're in another country? Because essentially what you're doing is, whilst you're within, you're claiming Nabamo UPND. So as well in UPND, you want to now create wars or factions because if you're the political party. But on paper, you are praising the president. In fact, you had an event with him. Those who are in the American spaces. Those who are in the UK or European spaces, again, you had a space with him. I think that must have been earlier this year. You were able to have met the president, spoken to him, you had gone to fundraisers, though as per usual, invite, I was not considered, blah, 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 because I know, if I'm just for it, I don't know. But what happens is we're so detached. Now, some of these calls, especially when you say things like, can the SG be replaced? In what capacity have you ascertained that the SG needs to be replaced? Okay, now, ultimately, equally, you're also calling for things like, the youth are not being supported. Now, I'm looking at, and again, this is the diasporan groups that were forwarding this, because I think that's where I first saw it, and then it trickled down to Zambians. And if we go to Zambia, and yes, the youth need to be, they need to be helped. In fact, the Secretary General said this as well. I think it was in the newspaper today, where he says, yes, the youth are not being supported. Now, I'm a little lost. We don't want kadreism, which was what was happening in the UPND spaces, in the PF spaces. That's what was happening. Being taken care of as a PF person was nichekelemo, contracts, or whatever it is. That was kadreism. It was tolerated, it was allowed. And even when I looked at the group of the youth, the ones who are protesting to say they are not being supported or whatever, and this is not disrespecting a trade or anything. Now, I was trying to compare Bakaponya. Now, some of you who are speaking, especially in the Diasporian spaces, and I couldn't put you together. I can't match you. But your voices were so loud that you were insisting that no, the youth are not being supported. But how are you wanting the youth supported? The CDF. Okay, there's CDF going on. The way to support everybody that helped UPND get into power, there's the CDF going on. There's so many young people that were asking for help, for skills empowerment. Those youths, let's just be honest, those are not even youth. Those were not youth. Those were vanshitata, fikaponya, and this is where we get that mentality of being so lazy that before bomba. Because if you were really clued up and you're part of the UPND as you claim, you would have known at least CDF in your constituencies. You would have gone and applied for the bursary so you can get a free skill by which you then can earn a living. You can't just have things for free. I'm so sorry. That was Muniba PF. And I'm very happy that the UPND are not giving freebies. I am so happy because we don't want the kadreism. And if we kill the kadreism within the UPND, we kill the kadreism outside. So I'm looking at that, that story that I just told you about the Aleph, where people are able to look at something, you look at a situation and don't just look at it because it looks a particular way or everyone is saying it's not everyone to join it. Look at an issue and look at all the sides. Look at the nitty-gritties, the small elements of things, and this is where, because if you indeed, let's say you're in the UK and you looked at the element of things, like the nitty-gritty, like the single grain of sand, watch Rodesh, and you examine it really, really in-depth, you would be able to say, look, if here in the UK, the president comes to my door, he walks door to door. I'm not going to lie to you. When there's the campaign season, your area MP, your councillor, and our president, the councillor will move with you. And then they're going to come to your door and they're going to ask you, have you signed up? Are you signed up for voting? What type of voting are you going to do? Are you going to do the physical one, or are you going to do a post where you post your vote? Make sure you go there, make sure that you are ready and you're aware. And if you have any queries or questions, you ask them. So yes, some of us had the luck of seeing people like Tony Blair come to your doorstep or Gordon Brown come to your doorstep because they are campaigning. It is the president's job to campaign from door to door. It is not you as cadres. And that's what we've done. That was typical of the PF. They created this system, which was really, really awful. So this is really, really awful that we can look at the politics of our time now and we begin insisting that we want the kadreism. PF, we begin replicating it because we need to support the youth. How? Why aren't the youth not taking advantage of the offers that are going about? You could either go into CDF, you could go through the CEC and get monies if you have collateral, because I think CEC is based on having some collateral. That's the element of truth. Get into, if you indeed know what the manifesto of the UPND was, I'd highly doubt that we would be forwarding things like kadreism. And even on the comment section, I can see people are really ticked off here. Somebody's telling me, just keep quiet, madam, and enjoy your life in diaspora. Time will come when the party will need the so-called kaponya. Very, very shocking. I don't think we need the kaponya to campaign for you. I'm really, really sorry. The president and his MPs or ministers, we employed them to engage. I'm so sorry. I'm not in the diaspora. I'm actually in Zambia. So I know what's going on the ground. That's why I'm actually castigating those in the diaspora, because some of them are the ones that have been forwarding some of this rubbish. When they're living in the diaspora and they don't see these things, in some of the diaspora nations, the president, the chancellor, and the minister are the ones who go door to door. It is the president's job to campaign. So whether because of that court case is besides the point. The fact is, the president's job is to campaign for his political party. It is not you. Where as a human being, as a citizen, should just demand that the environment is conducive for you to live your life. Get into businesses. And there's access. There's the CDF going on. People are doing their skills. So let's say and I'm not reducing a Kaponya by any means, but Kaponya can go to a CDF. He doesn't even need to fill in anything. He just needed to go to a school, a skills school, send application form. If I'm in the skill schools, I can fill in your form for you. You assign a CDF office, and the CDF office simply releases the funds straight to the school. And you go wasang bila ngani woodwork, ngani metalwork, ngani tailoring, ngani hairdressing. That's all you need to do. That was the empowerment you need. They're not going to start giving you free things. Even but PF were giving free things. I'll give you an example. There's a lot of anger amongst marketeers in an area called Jack Compound. This is where Edgar Lungu came from. And the anger that's there is, those marketeers don't want to go and do the CDF. That's why they want to come to CDF meeting. They say they want to have a PF barista where they'll just come, no pay our marketeers free money. It's obligation free. There's not, you just give them free. And off they go. And that's what the marketeers at Jack Roundabout want. Some of you who know where Jack Compound is, I'm sure you know that there's a roundabout where there's a market. That's what those marketeers want. We want free things. We don't want to work for it. And now we're creating factions within the UPND by demanding things that are even silly. And that's why I'm castigating the group that is in diaspora who have been insisting for some of these things and claiming that the UPND are not taking care of the youth. That's a big lie. I think the manifesto, if you read the manifesto, and that's why manifesto, you see, manifesto, but you want to now side with those guys. It's such a disparaging sentiment, especially when it comes from somebody out there, because I've been looking on and I feel really embarrassed because I can imagine how people feel when you in the diaspora are saying certain things and it doesn't apply because you're not there. There's a pull of something that blocks you, no matter how you want it. And yes, we can be interested in the politics of our nations and we should be vested in the politics of our nations, even if we're in the diaspora. But we should always be cognizant and aware that there's a detachment. And even when we come across and we say certain things, we are coming from a good place. But that unavailability to reality happening in the space will always blind us. And we will cause unnecessary rifts, because I think what we've done here is we could advently cause a rift within the party by insisting that you want somebody else to replace somebody else. I think Mwaliteta has a position within the UPND. I'm wondering why you would want him. And we're still doing that. We're actually even insisting that we reshuffle the ministers. Now, I'm wondering, how are you going to reshuffle the ministers? All right, so we have somebody that's joining us. I think Mr. Terence, welcome.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. It looks very sunny where you are, so I should think, oh bless, we've lost him. I really wanted to hear what he had to say because he looked like he was somewhere where it's really nice and sunny. So I'm sure he'll be coming back. But these are some of the disparaging things. So when we look at some of the issues that have come across in the last couple of days, I'm very worried. Not worried as per se, but I think we are causing unnecessary rifts within our own camps. And these rifts are not even necessary. These rifts are not good. They're not going to develop us at all. So I think we really need to be cautious. When we are forwarding things, I think the grittiness of knowing what's the color of Ulubala Lumkati is very important. And even when we call for things like, oh, let's have a Mwaliteta as the Secretary General. Now, human resource assessment that never feel Secretary General. In what capacity has he failed? What is his job description? According to the UPND structure, what is his job description? Has he failed us? And even when we're saying he has failed us, in what way? Because what you're wanting is a church. PF. You want the church. So when this one says this, when this one says this, now you know what happened? There was never any development. And it was noise. And the PF are very good at drawing people into these churches. And then what you're actually doing of sense is diluted. There's so much that the UPND has done in the last 1 year that I think we should not be concentrating on even reshuffles of this and that. I don't know what you think. Mr. Terence? Your mic is off. Oh, bless. Your mic is Oh, we've lost him again. Okay, so I think that's, for me, that's where I have a problem. And I think there's a question here: get educated and skills through CDF, and someone will be eating all year round. Absolutely. Because if you get, David, thanks for this. So if you were to get a skill, let's say like tailoring, and some of these skill schools would give you a tailoring course, let's say in 3 months or 2 months, free of charge. But government buy lipira. You just go there, assembly what you're supposed to do. Next, you get a machine, and in the end, you're working. So there's all these things, and we're not looking at them. And I'm a little disappointed because some of the people that are speaking from the diaspora and spaces, you are professionals. You are educated folk who I think should know better. And even when you're saying reshuffle this or reshuffle that, you need to go into each ministry. So when you say, let's say, for example, at the Minister of Water, we need Tatwa Beshiva. All right, go into his ministry. What is his job description? What has he done so far? You need to ask all these questions. And what has happened? Now, we're speaking from we're just looking at it from this perspective of just because we want to see these things. We want to see them at all about Minister of Water. And I think it's a job of every journalist to go to the ministers, because I think this is where things have flipped. Akale, the ministers were going to the media and giving them what they were doing. This crop of ministers isn't doing that. It's not, it's your, as a journalist, you're supposed to now do your job. Go to the minister, ask the minister what's happening. Follow the stories, because that's what a journalist does. The journalist searches. But our media spaces are also not doing their jobs. They're not going, because they were used to being called. And when you're called, they know transport. This is not a lie. This is something that we all know happens within our media spaces. Or our media journalists or whatever, most of them are coming from ministries, or companies that will not support their transport. So it means that you really need to make sure that when you're sorting out the transport for the, I do apologize, I have eye problem. So it means when you're going into these spaces, you are making sure that you have transport money paid for you. So now no one is offering what they used to offer before. And I suppose that has changed the trajectory of the media spaces. So it's really unfortunate that maybe we could get to a space where the media are not doing their job, because I think if the media was doing their job and they were going to these ministers and asking the minister, okay, what are you doing? The Minister of Water, the Minister of Gender, the Minister of Chakuti, what is it that you're exactly doing? We would know what they're doing. But as is, we're just thinking there's a silence, and because of the silence, the ministers are not working. And I think that's why there's an insistence to say this is a different crop of ministers. They don't need to show off. They don't need to take a camera with them and go around Lusaka showing you at all buses, because tamkweta masks, as the old Lusaka minister used to do. And we need to respect these choices that the president is making. If we voted in the president, we should trust him to do his job. So if he appointed these ministers and he thinks the ministers are still doing their jobs, let's give him the leeway. If he feels they're not doing the job, he's getting, and we've seen this, where we've seen some people actually being fired from their jobs or being reshuffled. I think it was the permanent secretaries that got a little reshuffled, and some of them actually got, maybe I would say they were fired. It was a bit of a firing. So I think there's that element of, we really need to be honest about what we are saying in the media spaces. Another thing that was being said in the media spaces by a lot of us within Zambia and out of Zambia was asking ourselves, why was the Minister of Justice sent to the Queen's funeral? We wanted the president to be at that funeral, which is very funny. And I found it funny and hilarious because we were insisting that the president needs to be at the funeral, and we didn't feel that the minister was adequate enough. Now, the following day, you see what the president was doing, the meetings that he's had at the UN, and his speech today at I think that was 1930 during the debate session. And it baffles me, because I'm looking at us as educated people. We are on these social media spaces. We know what these things are all about, but we get so caught up. And I think somebody did say something along the lines, say that, we have this complex, a very, complex about ourselves. And we think that we should direct the president in what he should do. we should tell the president, oh, hey, you cannot go, cool, this, I think we are really losing it. And we need to allow the UPND to work within what we ask them to do. Let them do their jobs. I think we do it in our homes when we employ a maid. We cannot be multi, because what we're actually doing is we're multi-managing the political party. And essentially by doing that, I think we're going to just derail them from what they're doing. They're on the right track. When they're wrong, we tell them that you're wrong, but I think we can't be multi-managing them. Whether we are in Zambia or out of Zambia, and we're going to just, in fact, create a lot of unnecessary tensions within the party. Because whilst you're wanting to advise or you're wanting to get what you want, we are very tainted. We have to be also equally aware that we are very tainted by what we had prior in the old government. And I do understand that a lot of us in the UPND, we are hurt, we are angry, and we are wanting too much. I think the term would be revenge. I say we have political PTSD because we think we deserve better. We want to replace the spaces that the PF had in the markets, in wherever. Then it will feel like, yes, we are tuleteka. But then we are going back to the same rubbish. And for me, I'm really happy that even a Secretary General can complain and say the youth feel that they're not being taken care of because they want to maybe take over whatever it is that a PF use, or want to go back to a PF and begin dealing them. Come on, guys. We are better than that. It's really, really unfortunate when I look at our spaces, and even the loud voices that speak for us, these political analysts who analyze these spaces and claim that no, because of this and that, we're supposed to be in these spaces and the youth need to be taken care of. No, get with the program. The president said it is time to work. Your job is not campaigning. It is the president's job, and to employ. Why do you? Because what we're doing is, okay, so we voted the political party in. They are now working, but you're still insisting that if you get them shindika, to them around, to them shani. No, guys, come on. I think this is really, really unfortunate. Even these sentiments where everyone's, no, we need, the SG needs to go, the SG needs to go. Why do you want to divide your own party? Because that's where I actually see that you're an idiot. And this is somebody that has, I just want to see, somebody commented and actually says an idiot. Oh, yes, so this is Comrade Patrick Benaya. And you say, the SG must go. An idiot with a plan is better than a genius who is busy dozing in his chair. He must pack. Now, I'm wondering, who really is the idiot when we look at this situation? Because I think a lot of us in the UPND are actually, a lot of us are idiots. Because what we're essentially calling for is to divide our party, whilst Mwaliteta, and now you say let's divide it. In what way? Because your aim should be, as a political party, to do your jobs. Allow the president to do his job. Let him make conducive environments for all of us. When campaign season comes, everyone is going to vote for the political party. Why? Because you deliver to the people who matter. You as a member, you are besides the point. If you're doing a wedding, and now you're wedding, you're part of the family, what happens? Why? Common sense. The ones why? Because you invited them. You're part of the family. So even when, as by UPND, you keep insisting, to follow you want jobs, I'm looking at you and wondering why you want to divide your party whilst you're ruling. Because what you have done is you've invited people to your wedding. Now, wedding, guys, when this is our event, that's what you're doing. Why wedding? The moment you organize the wedding, you're the ones who sorted out the food. Then you realize that I think we have too many guests, and the guests have come in and now they're eating. But you as the people who are, well, that's what normally happens at weddings or big events. If you find that the food is lacking or whichever way, what happens is you step back and you allow the guests that you invited to enjoy themselves. Who are part of the party, you step back. Why? Because you are part of the family. You don't begin saying, you don't do that. Why? Because you're a family. So I'm very confused as by UPND and other members. Why do you want to divide your party in such a manner where you begin to nitpick who? it's I don't know if you get me, but for me, that's what's baffling me. To the point that as one person like Mr. Patrick Benaya said, where you say an idiot with a plan is better than a genius who is busy dozing. That's why I asked, do you know his job description? What is the job description of your Secretary General? I think if we start from there and we can see, then we will not say, okay, this is the job description. And has he worked according? And I'm not saying that they've done something good. I also don't like a lot of the things that they've done. Like, I don't like this whole inviting of people from outside. Once I have these PF prostitutes that you brought into the party, I don't get it and I don't understand. I don't like it. Which is the equivalent of me going to my sister's house and finding her shower maid. Now some cover maid, I don't like her maid, but it's her house. So because it's a house, I'll leave her because ever made Bakwetu. Which is what has happened within the party. But that doesn't mean that just because my sister has employed a maid I don't like, it means she's dozing. She doesn't have a plan. So let's go and get Mwaliteta. Mwaliteta with a plan. Plan. That's the question I'm going to ask you. Which is going to be better than what the current Secretary General is doing. I'm really, really interested to know. I don't know who knows such things. Like, I think like Wabena said that it's better somebody with a plan. So I'm wondering, he is a plan about what I did. And what job does he have within the party? And the job that he does in the party, is he doing it well? Is he not doing it well? There are all those elements that we need to be really, but I think we need to be really careful when we advocate for things inter-party, and especially that we're doing it publicly. That's the other thing. When you have a problem within your family, I don't think ZNBC said, so let's deal with the problem. We never do that. So I'm also again wondering that why is it that the affiliation of the party is attached to you getting a position or is attached to you having something? And that will prove that the party is working because you have been taken care of. And the taking care of is very literal. You want freebies. You want people to just come and hand things in your hand that because Mwaliteta Fulishako. And unfortunately, these are sentiments that are coming even from people that I think sometimes you should, well, with a pinch of salt, you know? Because I can imagine, I'll give you an example. Let's imagine CR1 is in Nigeria, okay? And then he's advocating and he's saying, you're not being taken care of. You did a lot of work for the UPND. When you were doing the jobs as you were campaigning, contract since I'm working as part of the family, after elections, or I'll be getting free money. Because I think that's what the PF used to do. Why do you want to mirror the PF? I'm so excited that we don't have that rubbish. And I don't even understand why, as the UPND, who did not like that, because that was the tool that they used to fix you. Now you were being fixed for no reason. What wrong did you do apart from just have a different point of view or a different democratic view on things? And that's what they used to do. And that's what we want to go back. Even us want the same thing. Take care of us. So I become your kada. I will be coming into your spaces, and when you're going wherever, I'll be coming campaign. That's what we want to do. Those are the jobs we think we deserve. And it's very belittling because that makes you are nothing. You are just a politician's stooge. And I'm wondering why you still want to be a politician's, stooge or a politician's servant when you're better than that. Because that's what UPND is saying. UPND is saying, guys, yes, no Okada, but you are better than that. You are a human being, and here's a chance for you to do something. If it's available to you and you can do it, because most skills schools don't even need. I will tell you this, I have a school, and I don't want you to do anything. I don't want you to come with your grade 12 or whatever, or a diploma. I just want you to come into the school and learn a skill. There are a lot of skill schools going around that are teaching in that aspect. You come into a school, you learn a skill, and off you go. I don't even want you to be able to learn. You shouldn't even be able to read or speak English or read or write. Just come into the school, learn a skill, and then you are able to be self-sufficient. And you'll not be reliant on a politician when they're having campaigns. And I've heard this because when the Luangwa mayor was, the Luangwa mayor won, and the PF won, the stories were that PF valid Yankoko. I'm a foot soldiers. That's why to lose it. But it's because that is not your job. You're not even supposed to be campaigning. It's not your job. It's a politician's job. You are, as a human being, as a citizen, as a youth, you are not a politician. You're a citizen, and you need to be working for yourself. And then you let the politician do his job. But so if my allowances and all sorts of things for them to just say, you know, in the community. Why? Let them work for the money that they're getting paid for. Those allowances and the salaries that they get, we are paying them to do their job. So that is their problem. That is not your problem. You're not even supposed to be found on campaign trails. What to Afma? You know, when the president is passing, we can come out, wave and say hi and get excited. But it is not your job to go and start campaigning. It is the president's job. It is the minister's jobs. It is the councillor's jobs. That's why they get paid. They cannot just be getting paid Isha free when they're hearing the thing. I think that is very wrong. So I'm very amused. I'm very happy that we don't have those kadreism things. I'm very, very happy that when we're not doing what the PF used to do. There's no way we're going to be any different if we go and start mirroring whatever the PF used to do. And worse off, that our voices, us who know and can see a political system that works quite similar to what the UPND are doing, are the ones that are even sometimes instigating this. We speak on our platforms just because maybe we have a voice and we're able to speak without the fear of being told off by the masses. I think we really need to be clever or even cautious about what we say and how we say it. Because if we instigate factions within our own party, then the party is destroyed. What's the point of even being in a party if you're going to be defending? As somebody's put it, why should we be washing our dirty linen in public? Because if you feel that the SG isn't doing his job, you know who's the SG's boss. So go to the SG's boss and say, hey, doesn't look like Wale Bomba Mdala. But we don't. We want to make noise on the spaces and divide ourselves. You know, no queen. But it's really, really, I think, important that we look at things like the nitty-gritty things, and like the story I talked about, where you look at this issue and you're just not looking at it because it looks nice, or you're just looking at the crust or the husk of a nut, but you're looking at the actual nut and what is contained in the nut, what is within the nut. You know, so that's very true. I think there's somebody called Kasoka Transit Logic. He says, the real UPND who vote for change from the previous regime do not even cry, because all we want is a conducive space for us to work. Let's work. Kwacha is stabilizing. Let's do something and get it done. I really like that. That's so true. Somebody else says, if you don't know, the current SG was one among the first UPND MPs with Honorable Liato. Okay, so he's done his job. So I keep insisting. I think we just need to know. I would want to know what is his work, his description, his work description. What is he meant to be doing? Rather than Nashfunafi, and I don't like it because this is the other thing. Who are we basing the work on? We are basing him on Mwelwa from the PF. Now, he used to say things like, if we don't get voted back in, we are going to get arrested. Why do we want to mirror that type of leadership? And then we find a new leadership in here where somebody doesn't speak or whatever, and then we're now, and the tragedy of this is when we force them to behave like we're PF, they actually make mistakes. So for example, today in the newspaper where he says that the youths are not being taken care of, which youth? Which demographic? What research has it done to prove that the youth are not being taken care of? Because the CDF should solve that youth element. If you are educated, and you can write a business plan, you can write a business plan and get money from the CDF. If you have even maybe surety, like what do you call it, not surety, but if you have an asset, you could apply under CEC and get a business going. Okay, if you don't have all these things, you don't have an education, you don't have an O level, you can actually go and there's free education. Now, a night school won't say you have a free education. There's no excuse. If there's free education starting from the high schools or the primary schools, the entire school system is now free. So if you don't know how to read and write, you can go and start your education. You can equally go and do a skills and get a skill paid for, free of charge. That's a grant, unlike the other application under the CDF where you're going to have to pay back the money because it's a loan. It's unfortunate that we've taken things very I think we really want to mirror our PF, and we are all thinking the PF were the correct standard, because that's what we're judging this new. We think that the mark or the level of excellence was what the SG and PF used to do. From left why? There's never been a UPND SG. So who are you comparing? Even when Mwelwa Chonga against who? You know, there are all these elements, and it's really so. Fernando Mignoy, I don't know which is the silent there, says most of the people pushing for the confusion did not even vote for HH, so it's very possible that they are being funded by the opposition. That's another train of thought. So do you know that our current SG was just picked without political history? Obvious Mwaliteta is a man of political history, an experienced politician full of energy and political game field. Okay, that's another view. The contract was to improve the standard of living of folks, and if it doesn't happen, they will be voted out in 3 years. Absolutely, Mr. Yubin Peter. Prue Mulenga says, washing your dirty linen in the public, and it's shocking. And it has been, because this has felt like we are washing our dirty linen in public. It's been really embarrassing. I found it really embarrassing. You know, somebody says Kasoka Transit again says, actually, it's not about the SG, but the guys were too expectant. They thought when UPND win, then it will be their turn, and they will just the turn of the PF behavior. But the president made it clear we have to work and work and work. Absolutely. So this is the fact. Why blaming PF in every failure of our government? Does it mean the power of instruments still with the PF? I'm tired of this PF did so and so. 3 in this year's time, we will never achieve any major projects, only blaming PF. Okay, Mr. Oswald Wester, I think this is another train of thought that I always like to give an example. And I'm going to give an example of your face. So your face resembles the person that your ancestors, your mother, your father, all right? Whether you like it or not, wherever you move, your nose, sometimes you might not even know that maybe your mouth looks like an ancestor from 5, 6 generations past, but you are a walking, living proof of history. It moves on you. Your mannerisms, your behaviors and everything, that moves with you. So we can never stop saying that the PF did this and that. If even as human beings, we carry the history of our forefathers on our beings, it's impossible. And I think you'd have to be really, I don't know what argument or what point you'd forward to tell somebody that we should not look at our history. We cannot say we should not look at our history. It's so important that we look at our history. If we won't stop looking at our history, we will not demand better. That's why we keep thinking that the PF did a very good job, because we want to forget about them so quick and then do exactly what they did. And that's justified because they did it to us. We really need to be aware of this. We are living proof. We are history, moving and walking. Your grandma, your great-grandfather walks within you. Whether you like it or not, there's an element of them. And so even as is in your body, is even in reality and practicality. And we cannot stop saying the PF did this and the PF did that. We are working on that foundation. We will always work on the foundation of the PF. So I think that's one of the elements that we could talk about. And I think that was what I really wanted to talk about, and just it sounded like a rant, but that's what I really wanted to talk about. And sad, I feel a little sad, because even when the president was speaking to people like Starlight, companies like Starlight, the one that's owned by Elon Musk, and he's gone there because he wants to sort out issues like the internet and stuff like that, there were voices insisting to say, why is he there? Why is he not Kuchililo? Now, what benefit are we getting from Chiro Chava Queen, getting proper connectivity that is going to help some of the online things we need as a nation? We are complaining about things like NRCs, passports. If we have a good system, an internet or bandwidth system, some of those we can actually say, all right, let's put everything now online, and we can work, and work gets done. But without that, I'm thinking we are still really losing out. So we really need to look at issues, like I talked about the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, and how he says things like you need to look at the idea of mankind. you need to look at the nut. You really need to look at the apprehension of the objective essence of things. You know, you really need to look at the true reality of things. But I think we don't look at the reality of things. We get caught up. Now, if you want to feel if everyone wants to landa, for chinga moneka buino. If you never SG PF valley, if you are moneka buino, and abalande, you say church, if you are Africa buino. So that's what we should impose even our own ministers and everybody to be doing. And even when they do it, they look very stupid. I'm sure you know that. You've seen it. When they attempt to do the PF style, it looks silly, it looks stupid. And we even ask ourselves to say, guys, you know, it's embarrassing to us. But we prefer embarrassment, I should think. And now you're forcing them to do what that was never, it's not their job description. It's not their job description to get into every scaffold, to answer every Jim and Jack. It's not. Well, we're going to reduce our own ministers or our own politicians to begin behaving like the Tayalis and the ambassador from Tigray and, the binoculars guy, because that's a style. And that's what we want our politicians to now behave like Papa Market. Let's give them the credibility and the prestige that their positions hold. And let's hold them accountable to their jobs. They get paid, so let them do their jobs. When it is time for them to campaign, let them campaign. We don't need the Kaponya campaign trail. We don't need Kaponya. That was PF who needed Kaponya. We don't need them. I don't want the Kaponya. They were a nuisance. They were pain in the bad in our lives. You had them every. I don't know. I lived in a place where the Kaponya lived in an unfinished building opposite my home, and they were a nuisance because it was a safety element. You couldn't come out of your house past 19. Why? Because you're scared. You don't know what's going on outside. They were at every bus station, but that's what we want. It's that same group. I'm not dumb. I can see the same groups telling you that they're youth, and they're not youth. 45. And they're making noise, and you're also supporting them at they need support. Why should they be lazy? That's the unfortunate element of getting youth or people so reliant on being given handouts that we now want the same, even now when we don't want. It's not time for handouts. Come on, guys. It's not time to start giving handouts to Akaponya. I don't think that's the right nature of what we should be doing. So I'm just going to check here. I think somebody's just joined in. Mr. Mkelevai. Good evening, Mr. Mkelevai.
Good evening, Mwelwa. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very fine, thank you.
I was about to wind down, but you can add your 2 cents in.
You have spoken almost everything. Otherwise, it was amazing. Let me try to come on video.
Right.
Yeah. I'm always advised to turn the phone like this. Yes, we can't add and subtract from what you just said. For Zambian, we thrive. Ngapuli drama, we always want where there's drama, and where there's peace, and or rather that where there's some things that involves reading and understanding and bringing in some kind of objectivity. We run away from such, and we go away, and we want things that attracts more noise. For example, the issue, homosexualities, the issue of just the small little things that just make a lot of noise, and that's where you find why we want to thrive on those things. But we know, like the issue of homosexuality, the law is clear, and I don't even see why we should even go ahead and even protest when the law is there. If we have evidence, to state that somebody was found engaged in those activities, then go ahead and report. The police are there. But instead, you want to take it to the media, you start now screaming on top of your lungs. Mulefa kutichita divert kuma real issues. Right now, we have situations that we started. There are some cases that we started. Remember the issue of the universities. Has it ended? na tutalala wonse tapali fo tulelanda papali university iria oyo wakula iya ichita disappear just like that. Nobody is talking about it. We don't know how far that case has gone. We've just closed it like that, and we want to cover up such things by coming up with issues that are non-starter. So I feel Mwandin, we should just change this narrative for Zambia. We know that PF, they did what they did, and we shall never, ever forget, just like the way we never forgot about MMD, because we still talk about MMD, you know, and we shall never stop talk about PF with what they have done. It is just too early for us to forget about it. It's too early. And why should we forget? Why should we stop talking about the mistakes and the theft that took place when we have not even secured any convictions yet? Because the cases are still very active in the courts of law, you know. And Madam Chilwa, she's busy pushing. They are not just relaxing. They are busy on the. That's why they are busy okula leto to my excuse. No, they are hospital, they are quisa. It's because they know that these people whom we claim or we purport that they are not working, they are busy on the ground doing all the investigations and working. And very, very soon, Mwelwa, very soon, we'll start seeing dividends. We'll start receiving and enjoying, or rather, we'll start seeing people now being sentenced, going to prison. Yes. So this government is working, and we should just give them that space to work. And pali iria issue mwachirafu okulanda po iria issue ya people complaining that ministers are not responding, are not doing what and what. We are not being fair to these honorable ministers of ours. These are our friends, these are our brothers that are working 24/7 to just try to make Zambia a better place. Hakainde cannot achieve whatever those good results without working as a team. So these brothers of ours and sisters, they are working day and night, and they are busy. So they don't have time to start politicking. And also they are, like I said previously, they are also are now serving not just the UPND people. They are ministers of all political parties, all Zambians. Yes. Despite them coming from UPND, doesn't mean that now they should stop. They should just concentrate working with the UPND. No. It's like the president. He's also the president of everyone. PF, UPND, whatever CD, whatever you call them. I don't even know these other political parties, but they are all. Yeah. He's our president, and we have to embrace, and we are one. We are one people. Despite the political differences, we are one. We are one Zambia, one nation, and we should not start negating other people, especially these who we have entrusted now with the authority to do the right thing. If they fumble, we'll come for them as well. We are not going to sit back and watch them make mistakes, are we? But let's be objective. Let's argue, or let's present issues, not to be disrespectful. And imi ponto, that's what I can say.
Yeah, that's very true. I think we have an interesting youth here. I keep seeing his comments. This is Sid, and you know, a lot of times when I see somebody with the name Comrade, I have a lot of reservations. But my Comrade Patrick Bena, right? You vividly don't understand the cry of the youth. We have all the documents ranging from academic to enterprise, but what you think is all about us wanting free things. that's not being realistic because you know nothing about what the UPND youth are going through to access the so-called CDF. You are in the diaspora, so I would suggest you leave such discussions to maybe Jeremy Kanyika, who is on the ground, no team. And this is where I laugh because
you know, it's true, but it's a little bit sad that we have youths that thinks like that. You know, just because we don't live, we are not in our country, then we know nothing about what is happening on the governance or what the youths are crying for. We are the people that actually gave information to the youths on how to go about voting, registration of their voters. They're doing all kind of, you know, we played our part, and we respect their involvement. But despite them having all the qualifications, let them just take their time. Their time will come. Their time will come. I know for the fact that the government has plans for them. Has plans for them.
And I think this is where
sorry, they should not just sit and relax and wait for handouts to be. No, they should try. Let them get off those computers and get off the couch. Go out there. Go to the offices. Visit these offices. Go and leave your application letter of what you want to pursue, because this minister doesn't know what you want. They'll just come and force you to join CDF cooperative when you have other good and very productive ideas that are better than forming a cooperative. So sell yourself out. Don't just sit and complain online like that. Leave the couch. Stop on my video games. Go and hustle. Go get a job. Find a job. Ask. Trouble these people.
I think this is where sometimes when I look at the youth in Zambia, and I'm a youth, but I find us a little wanting, because we always want, like you're saying, we want that freeness of things just being handed to you.
No.
When he's saying you don't understand what the youth is going through, it's not just a UPND youth that is struggling in Zambia. It's every youth that is looking for work. It's every youth that is looking for opportunities. You're not special. You're not more special than the non-UPND youth. And in fact, if we look at this quite objectively, on the 1.8 Zambia's population, I'm waiting for the census to hear the entire population, so we actually know who the youth demographic is, because then maybe we might, because again, even with the politics, we do not know exactly what the percentage of youth was who voted, apart from the fact that a lot of youth voted. That a lot of youth voted. Now, even from that, a lot of the youth, the entire population of Zambia is estimated about 18 million. That was the last census. I'm thinking we're about 20 something now. It must be 24, 25. Now, from that 24, 25 million, maybe the voting ages, those who are within voting ages, maybe at 20,000 or the actual 18,000 last census. And then from there on, only 2.8 voted for UPND, 1.8 voted for PF. How special are you? You know, there's that element where we don't look at this in realism. Just because you're a youth who is maybe a member of UPND does not make you more special than any other youth. We are all struggling the same way. And I'm in Zambia for your information, Mr. Patrick Benaya. I'm a youth equally in Zambia. So I know what's happening on the ground. I know that for you to get the CDF, there's a bit of a struggle, because the CDF works in threefold. You have the I'm forgetting these cooperatives. Then you have the skill element, or whatever school you can get your school grants. Then you have the enterprise where you're entrepreneurs and you can get a loan from them. Now, the loan facility is pending because they want to do it through a bank. And I think they're still finalizing that element. So in your part, very true, Naishupa. That's where there's a struggle. If you applied for a loan or anything, yes, it's a struggle for that. But most places like the cooperative, the bursary schemes, most of those people, if you fall in a proper UPND, and unfortunately, this is the other thing. If you put Muli UPND area, yes, you're getting them quite quick and fast. If you fall under a PF area where the councillor is PF, whatever, there's a struggle, because obviously they don't want to prove that the CDF is working. So again, when you blame, you say the youth is struggling, are you blaming the UPND footy? even though there's a scheme. And this is where Mr. Mkeleba says, go out and look for these opportunities. But CEEC are offering equally these loans and all sorts of things, and you just need to have an asset. And unfortunately, not many of us use assets. But it still just comes back to the point I was making before. There's nothing special about you just because you're UPND youth. We are all youth in Zambia, and we're all wanting the same chances, and we are all hustling and working hard, and it's upon us to work hard and stop just waiting for the freebies. Because I think that's where it's the freebie element. Because you want definitely yeah, exactly, yeah. Something.
Yeah, this tantameni attitude yatampire kuri ba MMD. Remember, muli slash out, muli slash fund yaba chiruba. I remember very well that kwali brown envelopes. People were getting money for free, even when you have not worked for that money. We don't even bother to ask. The only people that I really thank so much were the Catholics. The Catholic priest, I don't know the name of that priest, who refused 20 million kwacha that was supposed to be handed over to him as a slush fund. He just said no.
Right.
Yeah, and to me, he was morally upright. I really enjoyed that because you don't buy people just to gain popularity. You create opportunities. You create enabling environment. And this is what this current government is doing. Kabiye ku skulu takuli fyama excuse lelo abafyashi okulala ndokita chikwete mpia sha kutwalira abana ku skulu. The government has slashed out every PTA whatever funds ayeshirendalama mwaliripira nabashifunyapo. So now what excuse do you have? Are you going to yomukulambo kulanda kubunga or kubwali or other things? Let's talk about those things later, but let's talk about when in education now I'm paying free of charge number. So takuli ifya kupela my excuses. Let's move on and see the benefits. Let's not just look at because bali tufunya ba UPND bali winner through dubious whatever means and it hurts you number but whatever they say or do whatever they do, then we shall just be negative and tell them off. Some people, they are working day in, day out, trying to put money in your pockets so that it create opportunities for you to have a job. And these results won't come in 1 year immediately. Some of these projects take a little bit of time, like education. Investment in education takes a little bit of time, and you need patience because you need to go to school. And once you finish, you have passed, and then you get your papers, and then you will go and get a job. Definitely somebody can offer you a job if you have the zeal to go out there and hunt for a job. You don't just sit. They love sitting and playing video games and TikToking. Instead of yes, and instead of going and start looking, remember if you register hustle, nobody ineta kwali umuntu walenje bati after wapushe school then wa mukufwaya kabe mukulomba awe ifwe twaire mukufwaya nchito. I remember mu grade 9 nalea mukubomba when after twalemba grade 9 nalea mukubomba pa premium oil industry mulia Mumbwa Road, around Mumbwa Road Ulusaka twale panga cooking oil nama butter. We were just grade 9 ineno munandi wale twati Steven twale bomba, and I remember getting first salary na mukushita na nama sneakers. I really needed sneakers, Nike. I felt so good because I hustled. I went on my own and got a job. Twaliama at casual workers, But it was a nice thing to do. But aba ichewa shinonshkwaba. But if it's either they know somebody, they want to know someone who can fix
who knows
things
someone
for them.
who knows someone. And I think to an extent, I don't blame the youth also sometimes. I tend to blame our parents. And I know most parents don't like this when I say this, but I tend to blame our parents because I think mwana 35. Because this is where I think in Zambia tona olabana. Then in Gamwana Kashatino, she can't work in a restaurant. She can't work yuku. But the whole world over, you know. And then we rob because most kids want to. The moment you finish, most kids do want to work. But the problem is the parents. They say, no, because I work. And now when you really now need the work, you are desperate for the work. Now there's no work. So you're looking for any opportunity and any loophole where you think you can get a job. And unfortunately, you equally now get even entitled to thinking that because I'm a MP until 2045, why should the government not be equally doing the same? That's the unfortunate thing with our system in Zambia. There are very few parents who are insisting that go and get to work. And
amachushi alichita contribute. I know opotwa fuma patali Zambian Zambian families, average families, they've been struggling sending their children to school, and na kuna yo ile issue ya kutati WW wako ni wako nga wapuisha omwana wapuisha school then mfuile waishiwa somebody ngelo ngata waishiwa omuntu, then your child will just be roaming the street ukunwa chibuku kachaso or whatever. So as parents, I think it is also important that we try to push our kids to do something productive. You can tell them what to do. You can talk to some people, help them apply an application, because millennials, there are very few that really know how to. Because we were just praising them for any little thing, even though it was a bad job they've done. Oh my God, this was great. That was amazing. But in real life, those things don't happen. You know, in real life, you have to work hard. So I really do understand Abaiche's sentiments, but what I can only tell them is don't just sit there and wait until they come and hand you a letter in your hand, or you go and kneel down in front of church, God, and pray, wait for the miracle to happen. It will never come if you don't stand and go write as many application letters as possible. Go in the offices and visit. Just be courageous. You will finally, nobody will send you out. Not everyone will send you out or reject you. There will be others that mean well, that wants to see, and then they will be able to give you a job. So it is important that you do those things. Do not give up. Life is too short, but don't never give up. Just struggle, but avoid TV, avoid playing on the cell phones. Go use those data okufuna enchito n'okukito tuma research, even organizing, forming yourselves tuma parastate or tuma cooperatives with your friends, and then you go and ask for financial assistance. Then our constituency and when bakuti bamipela koka bachita beef up your initiative. So don't just sit and do nothing.
Absolutely. I think on that note, I'm really grateful and thank you so much. I think that the important thing is, which a lot of people no longer say, is start with what you have. Because I think we don't start with what we have. And that's where the CDF, I keep going to the CDF because the CDF gives you a startup. If you can get a skill, well and good. But if you don't have that, start with what you have in your homes. Some of these businesses, let's say, for example, baking, you start naka oven karimunganda, you know, charge someone, I started that way. I would tell somebody, you know what, pay me half. So they pay me half, napanga cake, when they come and pay me the other half, now I'm oven. The other one, light, you know, it's a small thing. and you start with what you have. But I think when we have these grandiose ideas and we want to start with millions and billions, then you don't go anywhere. It's a struggle because that's not how life is.
Abanesu bale tulombako tuma business starting point impia. And to our parent, okay, let's try this. And then after a few minutes, after a few months, no, that business, it just went down. We missed out. So we are planning to do something else. Maybe if you could send some little bit of other amount of money, then why So in the first place, did you even conduct tuma feasibility studies or to go through and check whether who are the competitors? Is this business viable? Can I try? If somebody has the money, imagine if I was the bank, I was going to come and get back the money that you failed to pay, isn't it? So need to. That's why Mwanatina abantu balekana okuchita assist, because we come up with business proposals when we don't have the experience. We have no clue. It's try and error. Nobody wants to risk his money over a trial and error issue. So let's live within our means and let's try to. And in the area issue ya kusala inchito, no, just because me I want white collar job, I want abanandi balambwena nganamba okubomba enchito ya so na so. Who are you trying to praise or impress?
And that's why I always remember one. I think my grandma used to say, she don't get the same dash change whether on woman whether wapangire. You know, these are some of the things I think we really ignored from our grandparents, who maybe you'd find Alessia Fiamma fritters per roadside, and they're still making money and they're able to send your parents to school. It was not an easy thing, not an easy feat. So I think we really need to go back to basics and look at ourselves as honestly as possible. And the other element as well, I think that I heard somebody say, this was by a CDF office. The guy at the CDF office was saying, look, the loans, you're going to start paying the loans. I think you get a loan, but you pay 10% more when you come and pay back. And you paid, this is the list. So you borrow this is how much you pay, and these are the years. And this guy said something, he said, there's no way. If one said, then he says, oh, no, you can't run away. If you do run away, the country will block. There's going to be a system where you're going to be blocked. You won't be able to borrow anywhere else. And you're going to have a bad credit rating. And the guy goes, and the man walked out. Now, is that not laziness? Because a loan at 10%, what the government is offering, no collateral, they just want a business plan. That is massive. That's a big handout. Yes, you just need to do your part, work hard and pay. And they're giving you adequate time to pay that loan back. So even when these youths are saying things like it's hard, guys, if you should put it up, just go and apply. If you should put a yes, it's because the government is delaying in releasing the funds for the loans because they're doing it with the bank. And the bank, I think, is trying to formalize issues or whatever. And I suppose this is also credit rating thing they're trying to create. So I think maybe there's a bit of a back workload that they're supposed to have done prior to this. I think that's the only problem that they have. Before the CDF should have been put in place, maybe these things should have been in place. But I don't think there's anything hard about going and getting a CDF fund, whether it's a bursary or cooperative or a loan. It's very simple. You just need to go and get your TPIN numbers, and any loan TPIN numbers, company registration, where someone says, no, it's very hard to get a CDF fund. If you want a skills qualifications, you go to the school, apply, bring the application letter to the CDF office, and then the government pays straight into the accounts of the schools. Yes, there are delays. In certain places, they have delayed, they have not paid these schools. And then they've assured them that the money is going to come through, maybe things here and there. But this is where I'm very doubtful when I see people like that comment which said it's very hard for UPND to get a CDF. And I'm like, my friend, that's a lie. I'm in Zambia. I know where a CDF office is. And I know what's happening with the CDF. So we really need to be honest and just really work hard. I think, like you've insisted, we just really need to work hard and go out.
And not everyone is going to, not everyone Mwelwa is going to access CDF. It's not for everyone.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are people there also who are governing those, who are trying to also give out that money. And they're being cautious. They're being very careful. They don't want to give every Jim and Jack that comes with without any good plan. And said for as long as no, but if we are somebody responsible. How are we going to be responsible? How can we keep our finances in order? Or how can we run our businesses? Is it just business? Is it just the cooperative? Or can we do other things? What other alternatives can we go for? You know, there are so many ways we can actually raise our money or even have a better employee. Even in if you have a this small, of course, I understand that Zambia, if we're adults, we have a problem. We are dream killers. We kill our kids, our young men's and women's dreams. We don't even bother to sponsor or support when we see or we identify potential in these kids or in these youths. Instead, we consider them as a threat, that they are going to be much better than us when they, and then we become jealous. So what kind of a society are we going to build when we start? That's why we start treating the future generation like that. It is important that us as adults or senior citizens, of course I'm not that senior, but as senior citizens, they also have to pave way. Not to worry, kalira more face. You were even on retirement. You are in your 70 like the king. In your 70s, come and rule. You can't even say, sorry, guys, my time has gone.
Nothing, Charles.
Yeah. So it is important that twapela kwa kashtava abaiche bachitako na ifufu abaiche sentulange abakalambati. We are responsible. We can actually handle any undertaking. We can handle situations. We can take care of the welfare of our homes or our country. But not we see you flashing. Bakupera kofi mpia ka 2 pin. Mairo, you're on TV, on Facebook. Now we are shitama. I'm a necklace. I'm a neck chains. You start. I'm sleeping on money. How can our adults trust us like that when they see you flashing? Wayamukushita motoka iweta ukwete nenganda. Wayamukushita TV da ukwete chipuna pa kwikara. How do you do those things? How do you come up with such kind of? So it is also important to show responsibilities, especially when my youths. Tulangen from home. They say charity begins at home. Show us from home what you are capable of doing. How do you keep your room? How do you manage home management, house chores? From just those simple little things, one can tell as parent to say this child is going to grow as a very responsible person, and they will even award you with a lot of incentives. So it is important that we also change our mindset.
You've just reminded me of a lady that runs one of these big. She's a boss in one of these big NGOs, and she would go to a mall where this young man would wash her car. And on one occasion, she asked him, because I think a couple of times he would wash her car, and one time she asked him, what have you been to school? And he goes, oh yes, I've been to school, I've got my papers, just hold on. So he goes and grabs an envelope with his qualifications, and he had a degree, and the NGO was looking for a person with such a qualification. So he got a job in a completely different field from washing a car. And I think sometimes that's what we just need to step out and do something, and then the job is going to find you. The job is going to find you when you are working. The job is not going to find you when you're sat. Or overnight. You will not find life is not like that. You walk out and you step out and you look for work, and the work will find you in your job. But I know I've found jobs people always tend to laugh and say you always have a job, or it's easy, but it's not easy to find a job. Jobs find me when I'm working. That's just the reality of life. So thank you so much, Mr. Mkeleba, for joining us. I think on that note, we'll wind down. Thank you for all those that were commenting and sending your regards or where you're coming from. I think I laughed at somebody's comment. Mr. David Simbayo said Livala stage 3 in the view. Thank you so much, Livala stage 3, for joining in. This is the silliest thing. I do not know where. I know where Livala is, but I don't know which stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. I really need to learn that so that I know where stage 3 is. So thank you so much for joining in, and thanks for all those that commented, and your views were highly appreciated. Thank you so much to Mr. Comrade, I've forgotten his name now. He had a lot of good opposing points. So thank you so much. You made this discussion a whole lot interesting. It was not just a yes sir, because you brought in your opposing view. So thank you so much, and good night.